Pantheon AI presents Market Prediction S&P 9000 Target. Pfizer's massive $7.3 billion acquisition, Big Tech Underdog. Welcome to the PAI Morning Briefing. It is September 22, 2025, and I'm John.
And I'm Sarah. Good morning, everyone. I hope you've got your coffee ready, John, because it looks like we have a lot to unpack today.
Absolutely, Sarah. The coffee is strong and the markets are, well, they're moving. Let's start with a quick overview. We're seeing some modest gains in the major indexes this morning.
Right. Modest seems to be the key word. The S&P 500 is up just under 0.3%, trading around 6673.
And it's a similar story for the Dow, up about 0.27% at 46,334. The Nasdaq is leading the pack, but only slightly, with a 0.35% gain.
So, a pretty quiet, cautiously optimistic start for equities. But that is not the story over in the crypto space, is it?
Not at all. It's a completely different picture. Bitcoin is down over 2%, sitting around $112,000. And Ethereum is having an even tougher morning, down a sharp 6% to below 4,200.
Ouch. It's almost like Bitcoin and Ethereum are collectively saying, we had a bit too much fun over the weekend, and now it's time to pay the piper.
That's a perfect way to put it. This contrast really sets the stage for the big trends we're tracking. On one hand, you have this steady, cautious optimism in traditional markets, but on the other, you have these huge, dramatic swings.
And speaking of optimism, there's some pretty bold, long-term talk out there. I saw Evercore's Julian Emanuel is floating the idea of the S&P 500 hitting 9,000 by 2026.
9,000. That's ambitious. But he's not just pulling that number out of thin air. The argument is grounded in the idea of sustained economic growth and strengthening corporate fundamentals.
Well, speaking of corporate fundamentals, Pfizer is certainly making a move. They just announced a massive $7.3 billion deal to acquire a company called Metsera.
And Metsera is fascinating. It was only founded in 2022. Pfizer is basically betting big to jump into the obesity drug market, which is clearly heating up.
It's a huge signal. When a giant like Pfizer invests that heavily, it says the market is ripe for major innovation. You could say they're not just fighting viruses anymore. They're ready to fight the bulge, too.
Right. But while Pfizer is getting aggressive, another giant, Microsoft, is facing a different kind of narrative. It's being called the most unloved stock among the Magnificent Seven right now.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Despite a lackluster quarter, some analysts are saying, don't count them out. They believe Microsoft still has the ammunition to regain momentum. It's this classic clash between short-term sentiment and long-term potential.
Exactly. And, while all the attention is on these big names, there's another story bubbling up. There's a list of 15 stocks that have not only beaten the S&P 500 this year, but have also gotten cheaper while doing it.
Now that is the kind of trend that gets you thinking. It really begs the question. Is this a sign that value investing is making a serious comeback? Or is it just a temporary blip in a volatile market?
It's a great question. Let's try to connect some of these dots by looking at the sectors. In healthcare, that Pfizer-Metsera deal is a textbook example of a company pivoting to seize a massive new opportunity. It could redefine obesity treatment.
And in tech, the Microsoft situation is the perfect illustration of what we were just saying. Even the biggest leaders can hit a rough patch with investors. But the underlying innovation engine, with AI and the cloud, is still humming. You can't judge a tech giant by one quarterly report.
Good point. And that long-term optimism ties back to the financial sector. That S&P 9000 prediction, however bullish, suggests markets are gearing up for a potential run that would benefit banks and financial institutions.
True, but it feels like a bit of a tightrope walk. They're balancing that growth potential against the constant threat of interest rate adjustments or other economic headwinds. One wrong step could change the mood quickly.
And of course, none of this happens in a bubble. A bullish U.S. market could pull in a ton of global capital, but by the same token, global economic uncertainty or geopolitical tensions could easily pour cold water on that S&P 9000 forecast.
It's also interconnected. That's what makes these predictions so tricky. How do you separate a well-researched forecast from just cherry-picked optimism? It's a huge question for any investor relying on this information.
It really is. So as we start to wrap up, let's crystallize the key takeaways from our chat today. First, the main indexes are showing stability, but the real drama is in the crypto markets.
Second, the healthcare sector is buzzing with transformative deals, highlighted by Pfizer's massive bet on the obesity market with Metsera.
Third, don't write off the tech giants. Microsoft's Unloved status might just be a temporary phase, given its deep-seated strengths and innovation.
And finally, keep an eye out for hidden gems. That story about the 15 stocks outperforming the market while getting cheaper is a great reminder that value can be found outside the usual headlines.
Well said, Sarah. These are the kinds of questions and trends we encourage our listeners to think about. How do these shifts influence your own strategy? Are you chasing growth in tech and healthcare, or are you looking for value?
It's a lot to consider, but that curiosity is what makes navigating the market so engaging. It's about more than just the numbers.
Exactly. Thank you for joining us today. Stay curious, stay informed, and remember, you can always dig deeper with our AI co-pilot here at Pantheon AI. We'll be back tomorrow with more insights.
Pantheon AI, your information co-pilot.
Because learning shouldn't feel like a full-time job. Take care and see you next time.